on this. So, proper welcome to Sue, who is a coach and speaker and author who uses type to develop individuals and organizations in New Zealand and on this side of the world too. And her organization is called Personality Dynamics, and she's a great creator, as you probably know, of resources and ideas. And we're going to see that again today. She's a very familiar face at BAPT and about to come more so, as I'm delighted to say that she's just agreed to join the board and has been elected to her post on Thursday, with a brief particularly looking at education. So today her topic is about holding on and letting go, which is maybe an appropriate one as we approach the end of the conference. So Sue, over to you.
Oh, lovely. Thank you. It is so nice to join you. BAPT is an organisation that's very dear to my heart and will become a lot dearer, I'm sure, as the years go on. Also delighted that Type Coach is sponsoring. I'm actually a user of Type Coach. I think I put about 1,200 people through the system. So if you haven't had a look at it, then do please do so. So I have my session today, which I will just sort of share screen with you.
We're seeing your Zoom screen at the moment.
Yes, I know. That is rather strange. So let me just go here. I'm not sharing though at the moment, am I? Just
No.
1 second. There's always a. Okay.
Marvelous.
I think I've won. I think I've won the technology war. Okay. So we're good to go. So this session, holding on and letting go, is something that I put together actually for last year's BAPT in-person conference. And it just came about. So I had this idea. You know, you just have those sort of, you're walking on the beach or you're, in the shower or something happens and you just go, oh my goodness, here's a type question. And I wonder if it's a thing. So the thing that I was wondering is whether or not there are functions that we hold on to, and sometimes it can be problematic, and whether there are functions that we just can't help expressing, and whether that can be problematic. So I asked Sarah and Catherine if they thought this was a good enough idea to let loose on the public and the BAPT in-person conference. And they said, yeah, let's give it a go. And it produced such interesting conversations that I thought I'd just have another go. In fact, several of you were there at the time, so I'm rather impressed that this is second time round for you. So I'm hoping that we can all learn something as we go along. But I think that, as it turns out, this is quite an interesting thing to be looking at. So here's the thing. So we balance ourselves by using one function with an introverted attitude and one function with an extroverted attitude, or so the theory goes. But what are the implications of this cognitive pattern? Is there something that we can learn from this? And in particular, this session explores the possibility that we are unconsciously compelled to hold on to some things and equally compelled to express others simply because of our type preferences. So what I want to know is this true for you, and has this ever been problematic? So an awful lot of this session is going to have the golden nuggets when you actually do the breakout rooms, rather than me talking to you an awful lot. But I thought what might be helpful of you to see some images of how I see the functions working, and perhaps give you a few examples of what I think sometimes happens. And then we're going to go into breakout rooms of 3, and you're going to have your chat and hopefully come back with some amazing information for us all that we can all learn from. So that's my plan. So the introverted functions, what you possibly can't let go of internally, that can sometimes get in your way. So let's take a look at these functions. So here's introverted sensing, a memory of the past. I'm sure many of you know it's people who have this in dominant and auxiliary, who have S and J in their titles. So this is an auxiliary function for me. And this is the way I sort of think it works. Those with introverted sensing as dominant auxiliary, but all of us use all of the functions, as you know. We tend to have this ability to just go back and back and back and back and back. Whatever it is that we're doing, one of the first things we go to is, what do I know from the past that can help me now? And one of the reasons why I particularly like this image is it's got numbers on it. If you listen to anyone with a sensing preference, a number grabs us in a way that you couldn't possibly imagine, if you have an intuiting preference. Give me a number and I'm all yours. If somebody says, are there 3 ways that you'd like to improve your life? I go, yes, there's a number. Thank you very much. Or there's 9 ways that you can resilience. And I'm like, hello, I'm in. So using numbers is a really good thing. But quite apart from the numbers, there are sometimes things that extroverted sensing that means that this memory is just held within us so hard and so fast that we can't sort of get rid of it. Sometimes it's a really good memory, like the day we got married or the day we, had a big birthday or whatever it is. But sometimes it's stuff that really prevents us from moving forward because we just think, oh, I did that before. That didn't go so well. Not going to do that again. And then it sort of stops us in our tracks. So we just sort of do this backward thinking, which can both be awesome and awful at one and the same time. So let me just take you to the next one. Introverted intuiting, those with N and J in their type preferences, dominant for I and Js and subsidiary for E and Js. Something close to your heart, Jerry, maybe as an INTJ. But this is how I see introverted intuiting work. It's this sort of vision for the future. They can't help themselves but to be future focused. So it's very much whatever you're looking at, they can see it just go forward into their world. Like, so if I do this now, what does that mean? If you ask somebody with introverted intuiting preferences to think about what they did yesterday, one of the things that I do in groups, I ask people to think, what did you do yesterday from the beginning of the day to the end of the day? And the SJs go, oh, what a lovely task. Thank you very much. I'm going to enjoy this. And the NJs look at me as if I'm mad. But what I do to them is I say, I wonder if you could just sit back and think, what are you going to be doing in 5 or 10 years' time? And they go, aha, yes, now they're alive. And they go, I can see what I'm going to do. And the SJs are literally in pain, thinking that they just have no idea. Like, give me a number. First of all, I'll be X number of years old, and then my children will be X number of years old, and then there's a full stop because they really can't think much further. So N and J, this vision for the future. However, of course, it's fabulous. Strategically, we all want to have NJs in our midst to look at sort of long-term strategies, but also, I think, I'm hypothesizing, that people with N and J preferences can be somewhat stubborn about the vision that they've got for the future because they see it so clearly. This is clearly where I think we're going. And what I find in my coaching is the difficulty they have is translating that incredibly clear vision into something that other people can understand. They've got it, it's crystal clear, but how can they explain that to other people? So in fact, kind of what I'm showing you in these first few slides is 4 different ways of being stubborn. The SI stubbornness is, I haven't done it before, help me out here. And the NJ stubbornness is, I can see it, can't you? What's the matter with you? And they just go, whoa, this is what it looks like. It looks terrific to me. So here we go, that lovely sort of movement forward. Heavens, I wish I could do that. So here's the next one. So introverted thinking, those with T and P have it as either their dominant or auxiliary. Catherine, I'm thinking of you as an INTP. I don't know if others, the 2 Catherines actually here are INTP. So this one is a thought process. Now, we all need to have introverted thinking in our lives. It's incredibly useful. Somebody should be analyzing, questioning, playing devil's advocate. All of those things are absolutely terrific. So let me just show you what I think introverted thinking looks like. It is just this massive number of questions to get to an ultimate truth and definition. What is absolutely true here, and how can I question things to get there? Now, in my coaching, and I have 3 siblings who are INTPs, And I have a lot of TPs in my life. I'm married to an ENTP. I have raised an ENTP. There seems to be an awful lot of them in my life. So what I have noticed is that this beautiful questioning that we have going on here can be really, really positive, but it can also be this sort of silent thing that when they're with other people, they think, I have solved the problem already. I have already got to the nub of this issue. And other people might not be agreeing with me, but that's okay because they can just continue doing what they're doing, but I've really cracked it and I'm just going to do my own thing anyway. Or they might possibly write somebody off who isn't quite on the same page as them in their thinking process and just go, oh, clearly they don't have the expertise, don't need to really take that into account. Again, because I've already done this marvelous questioning thing. Okay, I question and question, surely what I come to is correct. So that's the T and the P. Another introversion function, and another way of being stubborn, to be quite fair. But we're all stubborn in some ways. It just depends on what's actually triggering us. So then we have introverted feeling, or F and P. So dominant for IFPs and auxiliary for the EFPs. I have a few here, I believe. Val, I'm looking at you as an INFP. Hello. So what do they hold on to? They hold on to an injustice that initiates an emotional response. It's just they can't let go of this injustice if they have felt it, sometimes years ago. Now, let me just play you this little graphic as to how I think F and P works. So that F and P piece needs to have resonance. It's almost like tuning into a radio station. I know this is a bit old school, but if you remember the days when we used to tune into radio stations, and we'd just be just trying to find the station. And while we were finding the station, it was sort of going, oh yes, we found that now. Oh, la, 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 I found the tune. And as soon as they've tuned in, there is that sort of resonance that makes them feel that they're okay now. It's fine now. I've seen something that actually fits me, sounds good. It's not distracting my ear. I'm in the right place. So it's seeking this marvelous resonance. But if they find something that they find dissonant, it can sit inside them, but they may not talk to anybody about it. So my other image for introverted thinking, which I'll use going forward, or introverted feeling, I'm sorry, is this heartbeat. Last time I looked, my heart was inside my chest. It is this constant sort of pounding, like this doesn't feel right. Does it feel right? Oh, yes, it feels good. Oh, no, it feels off now. And so this constant sort of seeking for resonance. And if they don't find that resonance, then they can actually just silently disagree, avoid conflict, and move away because of the dissonance. But again, not tell anybody about it. And everyone is surprised that they're no longer as part of the team, but they might just keep silent about it. So my question for you in your groups is this true for you? Is this what you can't let go of? So for those who have introverted sensing, it's this memory, introverted intuition, this vision, introverted thinking is this thought process, and introverted feeling is this sense of injustice, what's right. And if you think about being in a meeting or with a family or any sort of group, any one of these things could be going on all at one and the same time. And people are being silent about it. But it would be quite helpful if they weren't quite so silent about it. So what I'd like you to do is to break into your groups for 10 minutes and then just say, is this true for you? We do actually have the handout that you need in the chat. If you haven't printed it out, then please print it out. If not, just take a photo of this screen so that you've got these images to remember. So I'm really looking forward to what you're going to come back and share with us after 10 minutes. So Jerry, if you'd like to put everybody into their groups.
Yeah, so this will be nearly all groups of 3 and one group of 4.
Okay, away you go. I'll see you soon.
Welcome back, everybody.
Okay, just let me know when everybody is
Yeah,
back.
I think everyone's here, I think.
Terrific. Okay, what a great group for this time of night. I hope you've all got a glass of wine somewhere on the way.
Morning.
You're not, yes, morning for us, Brian, no wine yet. So I'd love you to raise your hands if you have something to say. We'd love to hear what you were talking about and to see if for you in your groups, this turned out to be something that was an interesting conversation. So I will just, please raise your hands, and Jerry, please tell me who's, Kithana, hello.
Yeah, hi.
I don't know if we've met before, but hello.
Yeah,
Really
hi.
nice to meet you.
I'm doing my master's at University of Liverpool. So I'm doing organizational psychology, and I was selected to be in the part of BAPT conference. So we were
Brilliant.
talking about which type do we belong to. At first, we discussed about what are the types. Like I am INFJ, and my other two people are like other one is like Rowan Bale. She's like also the INFJ, and Joe, he was IESTP, I guess. Yeah. So we were talking
Sure.
about that, and I told that I belong to the memory type more like, because I lived with my parents for like 22 years. I'm 23-year-old right now. So this is my first time I'm living miles away from my parents since I'm from India. I'm an international student here. I wasn't given the opportunity to be independent because of my father's father's role here. So here I'm like earning, I'm doing my part-time as after school care. So I'm earning well, I'm having the independency and having the freedom in my hand. So whenever I'm having that independency, all the memory that strikes me is like how I was in the past. Though I'm grateful for who I am today, the past shaped me to who I am today. So obviously some thoughts make me overwhelmed. So I'm like going back and forth. Like I'm having a set of vision for myself. Like I'll be graduating this year, so I'll be vacating the accommodation right now. I'm here, so I have to look for accommodation. I'll have to graduate well. I wanted to go to a good job that pays me well. So this is my future vision. So while I'm moving for the future vision, obviously some thoughts do bother me. So it's like back and forth. The memory is still there, but I'm still moving along with the memory. It's like I'm acknowledging my vulnerability, but also moving forward with hope.
Yeah, lovely. That's beautiful, Kithana. Thank you very much. Thank you for sharing that. That's great. Shirley, I have your hand up, I think.
Yeah, just there. Yeah, no, we were just talking a little bit. There were 3 NTs in the group, so we talked a little bit about NT, and for me, it's about the need to understand before you can move on, the need to understand before you can commit to anything. And that is just a whole series of why questions, which can be a real, rabbit hole that you go down, and it can be endless. I mean, if you're lucky, it can happen that you can answer those quite quickly and reach a level of understanding where you do feel you can take action. But without that understanding, it's almost impossible to move forward in any size, shape, or form, to commit to anything, to do anything. So it can lead to massive procrastination in that introverted thinking, rabbit hole that you can really get lost down with all those questions swirling around, and hoping to God at some point they will come together into one big question that you can sort of tick off and say, yeah, I've understood this well enough now that I feel that I can move forward. But times you can't, and you can get really paralyzed by your analysis, which can be an endless process.
And it must be a really lovely feeling when that question does finally coalesce into the one thing, like I've got it. But then I always think of introverted thinking as like this funnel of questions. So your brains are like question funnels. You've got all of these questions going at the top of the funnel, and then somehow or other magically even more questions come out of the bottom. and then they just sort of keep funneling round. So yeah, thank you for that, Shirley. Anybody else want to, just in the next 2 minutes before we go on, can you just either raise your hand physically or raise your hands on the screen? Heidi.
For me, it's the introverted feeling. I feel
Yeah.
that, yes, I sometimes cannot let go of that. I will like pay too much attention thinking about did I do it right? What about others think about it? So
Yeah.
that can be a rabbit hole for me. So
Yeah. Yeah, that constantly seeking resonance. And I find that with ENFPs and INFPs, that some people are sort of surprised when we talk about perfectionism in the NFPs. But actually, it's that constant, there's so many possibilities and they have to resonate. And unless that resonance comes, then it's incredibly difficult to move forward. And also having NFP preferences, there's a shift all the time. It's constantly shifting. Like this feels right now, and then, oh, doesn't feel right anymore. And then you sort of go to another thing. And does this feel right now? You know, you're constantly questioning that value system. So we will hear more shortly, but I wanted to just do the extroverted functions and then get you into a group to do the same. So let me share the screen again. So thank you for all those comments. That is terrific. So there's our introverted functions. And now the extroverted functions. What you possibly, we're still theorizing about this at the moment, but what you possibly can't help expressing. So let's take a look at extroverted sensing. Delighted to have an SP here. Interestingly enough, at the conference in Japan I just went to, the SPs were the modal function, the modal types at this conference. The actual modal type being ISFP. So joy, go figure. So let's just have a look at how I think extroverted sensing works in some ways. And it is this need to express observations and actions. Because where extroverted sensing is right here in the moment, what's actually going on, what's under my feet, what's in the air, what's here. And of course, it is fabulous to be observant. And as we all know, a lot of people with SP preferences, I believe, are just brilliant in a crisis because they are so good at looking at what's actually going on in the moment and sort of enjoying it. So that's the great side of it. But the downside is that sometimes you are literally jumping furiously in the puddles going, can you not see this? Can you not see that this is what's going on and that this is what needs to be done now? And if you can, I'm just going to tell you all of my observations about what I see is going on. Obviously, clearly, it can be so clear to you. Extroverted intuiting. So dominant function for the ENPs and auxiliary for the INPs. They have this beautiful way of having ideas and connections to everything. So have a wee look at my graphic here, because there are so many ideas and possibilities that are going around their head. It's almost difficult to make them stop. And sometimes when they're on a roll for other people, there's just one idea after another idea after another idea. It's an absolutely wonderful thing to have. How many ideas and connections and new ideas do we have in the world because we're using this function? But it can also go into a space where somebody's coming up with so many ideas, you've lost people. And I think particularly I like this idea of the constellations because I look at the constellations and I think, well, I can see Orion's belt. That one's quite easy. And down in the southern hemisphere, we can see the Southern Cross. But everything else is like, really? It's like those stars together. Does that look like a lion or a bull or a fish or something? I don't know. I'm not too sure I can work it out. So sometimes it can be a little overwhelming to have so many ideas, but you sort of can't help expressing them. And I was at a conference, one of the American conference once, and there was two NTPs talking to each other. And one of them said to the other in a really lovely way, everything is something else. And I thought that was such a beautiful expression for ENPs. You give them one idea and they will just constantly do this with it and spin with a million other ideas that they can think of. And then the gift is then trying to translate it to others who might not be able to see it. So here, this one is dear to my heart because obviously as an ESTJ, this is my dominant function. So I get quite excited about this, and I realize that not everybody shares my excitement. However, it is the dominant function for ETJs and the auxiliary function for the ITJs. And when I found this image, I thought, oh, this is so good. I'm ridiculously fond of looking at this. So what we can't help telling people is about the plans and the processes, or the plans and the systems. I think I probably updated that word last time I did this presentation. But just plans and systems. Look what I can build, look what I can create, look what I can construct. And it's just a joy of doing it. But the problem is we're so busy building and constructing either some thoughts in our mind or external plans that are going on. So how does this lead to that? And how does this build up to the other? That we can forget that perhaps not everybody has the same joy of it. And then we can start what I call shoulding all over people. What you should do, what you should do, what you should be up to, what you should, and really there should be no shoulds, if you know what I mean. So let's move on to extroverted feeling, because this is obviously a lovely group of colleagues who are all holding hands. They all happen to be female, but of course that just happens to be the picture that I chose. And of course there will be some men in those groups as well. That white circle in the middle it's just concealing a rather ugly light fitting that I didn't think was aesthetically pleasing for my presentation. But this lovely cooperating group of colleagues I thought was terrific. But there was also something that I couldn't quite see in that, which is movement. And so I sort of came up with this because I think the emotions ebb and flow and change and wheel, and there's a lot of movement going on, but I still wasn't sort of too happy with this one. But here's another image that I've got for you. And this is a murmuration of starlings, which are all birds. And this is a beautiful group of birds who are all moving in harmony. They all seem to sort of understand what each other is doing. They're making a rather beautiful effect by joining together and sort of being in sort of consensus with each other. Yes, we all agree that this is the way we're going to be going. And it just has that feeling of movement that I think extroverted feeling has. And of course, those with extroverted feeling often just can't help to express their support and concern for others. How can we make life better for the people who are around us, for the people who are outside of us? But also, if you can imagine one of those birds suddenly decides he doesn't want to be part of the group. It's like, no, I'm not going to do this. And I'm just going to fly off in another direction. You may all be heading south, but I've decided to head north. And he flies off. And then the urge for those people who have extroverted feeling is just to say, oh, no, don't do that. Come back. Come back and be part of my group. Isn't that going to be a much better place for you to be in this group so that we can all share this sort of support and concern for each other? So there we have the extroverted functions. Extroverted sensing is I just can't help giving you my observations. I just can't help expressing my ideas and connections. I just can't help making sure that you should know what the plan is. And extroverted feeling is showing your support and concern for others. So again, Jerry, we might just have about 8 minutes this time, I think. Okay, hi everybody. So for the next, just few minutes, is there any feedback? And did you come up with something that was so extraordinary you would like to share with us at this moment? Anyone put their hands up? What can you not help expressing?
Well, I can say a few things about the extroverted intuition group. We like doing new stuff. We get bored. We don't like repeating things. We don't always finish things because that's boring. We're always seeing connections, wanting to join up the dots, sometimes seeing connections when there aren't any. You know, we tend to always customize things for clients when maybe we don't need to. We get distracted. We like to learn new things, but we have for me anyway, too many new ideas and not enough time to implement them all. I think that was the gist of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think you ever come to an awareness, Catherine, that you need to be quiet at this moment because somebody's just overwhelmed with the ideas? Does that thought ever come to you? Or for our ENPs, maybe?
Not for me, but I can see Heidi's nodding.
Oh, it's like we're up to here. There's a comedian in England called Sandy Toskvig, and she and her partner. I haven't typed her, but I have typed her all by myself. And I think she's probably an ENTP. And her partner has said to her she said, "You are not allowed to have a new idea until I've had a coffee. You're just not allowed to do that. So you just have to keep quiet. Once I've had a coffee, I can take it on board, but not until then." Kitana, you had something to say, and then we'll just finish off and stay open for anyone who's got any comments. But we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, so I'm doing my part-time as an after-school care here at the school. So basically, I used to be an extrovert, like amazing extrovert, but the pandemic happened. It turned me to be an introvert at the core. So I turned to be an introvert. So I had difficulty expressing my concerns to everyone, including my own mom and dad. But after a while, I understood that I need to stand up for myself. So I started journaling and meditating, which helped me a lot when I came to Liverpool. So as I'm working with the kids, age ranging from 3 years old to 15 years old, I used to cover a lot of children during both morning and evening. So I can't be mad at them. I can't portray my emotions to them. So what I always do whenever I have something going on is I sit down, regulate the thoughts I have, journal at them, and I see in what mood I am. So if I'm pleasant, I'll turn it to being more pleasant. If I'm more pleasant, I'll try to be more exciting. So I go to the work, I talk to the children, and it's like they reciprocate my feelings and they cheer me up. So it's like
lovely. That's a lovely story. Thank you. Thank you very much. Let me just share screen again and just head to the last few images. So here we have. So introverted functions, what you can't let go of. Extroverted functions, what you can't help expressing. And I think what is so fascinating about these things is if you imagine, I don't know if they're all going to work for me. Oh, look at that. All of this is going on inside people's minds or while they're expressing at any one given time, because we are all so beautifully different. And if we sort of understand what might be happening for other people, which is all of this, no, honestly, it's no wonder we're so tired when we go to bed, isn't it? Our brains are all so incredibly busy. But for just to pick out a couple of types here, we've got some INFJs here. So we've got that visioning that goes on for you, combined with how can we help you? How can we help you? We've got the ISTP who we've got here, which is just this thought processes. Once you've worked out the problem, what are you going to do to put it into action? And somewhat under the radar for ISTPs. For the ENFPs, we've got these wonderful stargazy constellations moving, but beneath that is this justice, this just feeling of what matters. Why am I having all of these ideas if it doesn't matter? Lucky last, extroverted thinking. This is my brain at work, but it's supported by everything that I've done that helps me know how to put all of that into action. So I like these quotes just to finish with. One of the most valuable skills in life is being able to see another person's perspective. If you're going into someone's house, think about how it might feel to be the host. If you're creating a product, spend as much time as possible thinking like the customer. If you're calling customer service, think about how it might feel to be on the other end of the conversation. And finally, the more clearly you understand the viewpoint of your spouse or customer or co-worker, the better positioned you are to find a solution. So sometimes, if we're holding on to something, we need to open up, and if we're expressing something, we might need to shut up for a while. So thank you. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for your time. There we go. Whoopsie, stop share. So any other, I don't know if we've got a few minutes. Oh, we're spot on the hour. Jerry, you're muted. Jerry, we can't hear you.
That's better, isn't it? So thank you so much, Sue, for a really great session towards the end of our conference here. Really engaging and interesting, lots of stuff to take away and think about. Quick advert again. So Zoom is great, isn't it? But face-to-face is even better. And Sue will be presenting again at our face-to-face conference in London in June. So do get a hold of the details of that on the website. Actually, this isn't quite the end of the conference, because we are meeting just for a quick wrap up for 15 or 20 minutes on the final link that you'll find back on the conference site. So do come and join us and just conclude this great time together. And finally, I've put a link again in the chat to our new TF dimension animation. So if you haven't seen that, please give it a watch and share it with friends and family. And we look forward to seeing you over in the other meeting in 5 minutes and next year and on into the future. So thanks so much. I'm going to stop recording, but do stay if you want to just chat briefly to